kind of the idea. All right, here's what we're doing today. We are talking about those times when we want to add excitement to our playing, but we feel that we've said it all. We've said it all with the chords, we've said it all with the rhythm, with the licks, and we just want to add some kind of excitement, but we don't know what. And that excitement oftentimes has to do with the psychology of human nature. In order to really love home, we need to go outside of home and then come back. Right? And we see this in so many things like relationships or items or houses or whatever. We don't realize what we have until it's gone. And that's what we're doing here. So in order to do this musically, we are going to define a few things. We're going to define home. So I've got a backing track here that's kind of a groovy, funky thing. It's an E Dorian. So we're going to call E Dorian the home. Sorry, wrong tab. All right, so we've got a backing track here. The home is E Dorian. That's what the backing track is written in. It's basically a simple chord vamp. So anything that we play with in E Dorian is going to match. That's home. Now, if you're not familiar with E Dorian, that's okay. You can just use E minor pentatonic because you find within the E Dorian scale, you find a minor pentatonic scale. Just say minor pentatonic to make things easier. That's home. Outside of home is any note that is not part of the key of the backing track. So, leave this one. Ooh. Oh no, please no. Nope. No, that's horrible, right? That would be what I call not playing home. And it's very uncomfortable, right? The idea is to bring the listener to an uncomfortable space and bring him back home. Now, the problem, if we do that, it's so uncomfortable that you're going to confuse people. And they're not even going to want to go back home. They're going to want to just basically skip your musical world and go somewhere else. So that's where the second workshop that we had yesterday comes into play. Remember, we talked about the importance of rhythm, and at some point in that workshop, I told you that rhythm is more important than the choice of notes. You can play the wrong notes, but if you have a solid rhythm, and I demonstrated that in the workshop, it's going to be kind of accepted. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to add some good rhythm phrasing to these notes that are outside of home and then bring them back in. So we need an easy way to basically know where we are, if we're inside or outside the home, and when to go back home. When it's getting too cold out and you're going to confuse people, when do you come back in? Let's address the first thing, an easy way to come in and out of home. So let's define home. Let's take the minor pentatonic scale, traditional caged positions. We're in E minor pentatonic here. In the first position, that'll be 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15. We have 2 notes per string. I'm going to consider these notes to be the walls of my home. So, got a wall right here on the 12th fret, and then the opposing wall is going to be on 15, 14, 14, 14, 15, 15. So we got wall, 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 left wall, right wall, left wall, right wall. Anything outside of these walls, or anything within these walls, we'll consider those to not be part of the home. Even though a note might be within 2 walls, we're going to consider that it's not within the home. Now, it's not completely true, because some of these notes will be okay, but we're still going to consider them to be outside, okay? In other words, whenever we play outside, we want to go back in, and the way to go back in is to land on one of these walls. Okay, anything out is, oh, I'm playing outside. Okay, back in because of the wall. Okay, our first step, and then we'll talk about when to go outside. Our first step is to come up with a very simple system that will allow us visually to see the wall and the outside of the wall. So we got the wall, like I said, 2 notes per string. we're gonna fill in these walls with some outside notes. Again, I know some of these notes are not outside, but we're gonna consider them to be outside. So instead of having 12, 15, which are walls, we'll have 12, 13, 14. Okay? So on some strings, we will have a wall, 2 outside notes, and a wall. On other strings, we'll have wall, outside, wall. Wall, out, wall, wall, out, wall, wall, out, wall, wall, out, wall. Okay. By the way, this is not the kind of thing you're going to find in books, and not because it's this big secret. It's just like, I think of it I think of concepts in terms of stories because it really helps me remember things, very simple things. Okay, so that's what we have. First step is to just play that. So if we just play that new type of scale, which is the pentatonic scale with filled in notes, we're basically having the perfect blend, almost, of home notes, the walls, and outside notes. So let's try that over the backing track. So first thing in a backing track, we talked about that yesterday. Think of the train. Think of a train in my mind, on the rails. That's the note of the rails, the wheel hitting the rails. I think in terms of 16th notes, 4 notes per beat, if that's comfortable. If not, maybe 2 notes. That's fine. Okay, so let's just try that. Let's play that. Here it is in 16th notes. Descending. Okay, so you kind of hear you're having the feeling, it's very quick, but you have the feeling of I'm out and in. Now if I play in 8th notes, you'll have that feeling even more. Okay, now this still sounds pretty much in, right? Because the walls are so strong in that. We really are so used to the pentatonic scale that we just hear a pentatonic scale, really. Even though we're filling in within 2 walls. But that's okay. It gives us a sense, a little bit, of having these outside notes kind of accepted. All right, let's answer the second question, and then we'll explore that a little bit. When do we step outside? And when do we go back in? And there's not a one answer fits all at all. But that's a question I've asked myself for a long time when I was trying to get those sounds. I've always been a blues rock type of player. I had my shreddy phase, like 3 note per string, the Satriani thing, which I love, but I had that phase too, but I never had the fusion thing. And I always liked that sound. I never really wanted to go full-blown jazz because I didn't grow up listening to the music. So it's not really part of, my musical background. I like it, but I still wanted to get some of these outside-y sounds, but not too much. And so I thought about it a lot, and I feel that the best way for someone like me, and hopefully you, so I'm talking about someone who has a blues rock background and maybe you want to add a few of these sounds, but not go like crazy deep in theory or anything like that, is to listen to the drummer. Imagine that you're a drummer. I apologize for those of you who have seen videos like of me talking about it before, but some of you haven't, and it's so useful. So you're listening to the backing track. Imagine that you're a drummer. Follow the beat. At some point you'll do a fill. For example, right? That'll be the fill. Now the fill lands on a strong note, right? On the beat. Play outside during the fill. It's gonna work. So I'm going to demonstrate this, but first let me show you what I'm going to do outside. So we know that anything that is outside of the walls, we're going to consider it to be outside. We also know that in order for playing outside to be accepted, which is not here, we need a good rhythm thing. Because this is lame. notes wrong, but something like this is a little better. It's not great, but it's a little better. It will be great once I do stuff like that with at the right time. So I'm gonna play in, and then all this is in, out, in, out, in. Okay, try to loop that so you can hear it. I'll do it on the next turn around. 1, 2, start in, 4. You heard it there, right? I'm just playing the fills. Now, you're not going to do that all the time, but just whenever you feel that, oh, I need to reclaim the attention of the listener. So it's just a little bit, every once in a while. So I'm going to play with that. And first thing, that's another thing. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to tune up. Whenever I have to improvise, whether it's with a backing track, a band, or even writing a solo of a song, although that's maybe a little different, I always think of it as a conversation that I'm joining. And it's easy for me because I'm an introvert. So I listen a lot before feeling comfortable getting in. If you meet me in real life, you'll see that I'm not very talkative because I listen a lot and I'm kind of shy and I feel that I'm kind of awkward in real life. This is the real me. It's weird. But I listen a lot before talking to someone. And then I'll ease in and then, then I'm kind of normal. But at first I'm kind of not. Because I'm just listening a lot. So same thing here musically. As I'm listening, I'm just kind of enjoying what I'm hearing. And what I'm hearing kind of sets up what I'm about to say too. Because if I start playing right away, then you don't know necessarily what's going on, even though we've played this 10 times already, but if I start right away. You're not going to be able to appreciate my notes. And they're awesome. No, they're not. But you're not going to be able to really appreciate what I'm playing because you don't have the foundation. So that's why. Don't play. Just kind of get into it. So I'm thinking of the track. Where are the fills? Simple fills, right? Right here. Get my subdivisions, and then I'll start with a few notes. I'll try to develop that in the same zone of the fretboard. So once I feel a little bit more comfortable, now I am engaging more in the conversation. I haven't played outside yet. Because that'll be too weird. I want to hook you. Notice the ghost notes? We talked about that yesterday. I'll try it here. Notice? Right outside there. I don't know what that was. And then you can always use the walls and the things in between. Very pentatonic based. Double time or half time. Talked about this yesterday where sometimes the train might take a little more time climbing a hill. See what happened? We talked about it yesterday too, the freak out. You know why, if you were here yesterday. That the last phrase I played here, and you can rewind and rewatch it, it wasn't, or at least I didn't feel that it was really great. It's because I was getting too much in my head there, and the rhythm started to go down to kind of like not be very synced with what I was hearing. And that sent a signal to my brain saying, oh, that sucked. And then the rest sucked, and I had to stop the backing track. It's a little bit of concentration too. Having cameras around doesn't necessarily help, but okay. So in this particular track, it's a great track to get into the zone and getting used to stepping outside and back in. But what happens when we're dealing with a backing track that has more than one chord? Because this is just a chord vamp. It's like an E type of thing. That's all there is. Well, we're going to try that. We're going to give that a try over yesterday's track, which hopefully I can find it. You know what? We'll do it on the track that we used 2 days ago, because it has even more chords. Let me look for it. Sorry. All right, so what happens when we're dealing with a track with more chords? We're going to try that over this backing track here. It's kind of a slower pace type of thing. Oh, much slower, right? So reset the train. The chords here, yeah, you need to kind of know the chords in advance, but we've got a D minor, E minor, and A minor. Okay, I'm going to highlight the chords and try to step outside every once in a while. Of course, they changed the chords on me. The drum thing. Okay, so you hear it there too. The difference is that it's much slower and I would say harder to step outside. Because it's slower, your notes, and if you're kind of matching the groove that's going on, it's going to be slower, and so the listener is really going to hear that, ooh. By the way, all in A minor. Ah, what? You heard it there. It's a little, you get more time to hear that you're outside and feel cold, so you want to go back in. So playing outside, to me, feels a lot more natural on faster tracks, but it could still be done here. Just use it as a spice. You don't want to overspice the dish, especially in those situations there, because that's going to be confusing. That's it. I can go further with this, but I'm not going to, because if I did, I'm going to start giving you some ideas, and those ideas are going to become some words that you're going to use all the time, or licks, and then they're no longer going to be you. And that's the whole point. The whole point of the channel is to give you ideas for you to find those, because I'm not giving you a favor if I showed you licks and stuff like that. Then you will just repeat things that you've heard me say, and you're not really speaking anymore. But hopefully that makes sense. The idea is very, very simple. Step outside and back in. For those of you watching the replay, you can grab all the backing tracks that we used and rewatch these workshops over and over as many times as you want, and you can access this for free right here.